Everyone, and welcome to today's episode of the Hoopslinks podcast. I am here with Coach Justin Downer of the Point Loma Sea Lions. Coming off a fantastic year, Pac West in-season champions, tournament champions. He's the Pac West Coach of the Year. I mean, he's reached 50 wins in only 64 games, which is it's a pretty good sprint through. Coach, I've been to campus plenty of times and love it. It's a beautiful place, and appreciate you jumping on the podcast with us.
Oh, appreciate you having me on. So what you forgot to mention with all those accolades is all the really good players that I got to coach that made my job way easy. So appreciate the love and really excited to spend some time with you.
Yeah, awesome, man. I think we know as coaches that the good players definitely help. That you can have all the X's and O's and all the game plans and all the film, but the talent definitely helps you get there. I know you guys have got a good group. Coach, I mean, when I look at your basketball background, I mean, we got starting high school coaching over at Riverside Poly. You've coached through a bunch of different levels. So spent some time at Vanguard that at the time was part of the NIA, now jumping up to D2. Obviously spent some time at Cal Poly and did a bunch with their recruiting there. Obviously then to Point Loma as the assistant, now elevated to the head coach. I wonder if you just talk us through kind of your journey coaching. I mean, from high school through the different levels, you know, what have you picked up along the way and in kind of this short amount of time? What have you noticed about the game changing, and, you know, how do you stay flexible as a young coach and kind of get to the level of success you're having right now?
Yeah, I think for me, going back to my early days, even as a player, I always knew that my end game was coaching, whether that was my God-given ability or, you know, just my passion for it. I coached elementary school teams when I was in middle school teams when I was in high school. I spent all my summers coaching overnight camps. And so the coaching thing was not a matter of like, was I going to do it? It was just a matter of when. And so starting in Riverside and getting into the high school thing, for me, that was really what I was hoping to do, was coach high school. I wanted to be the old ball coach in town, spend 35 years. I wanted you to know where I went to church, where I went to after the games. And that was really my vision for it, run camps. And so when I was in Riverside, that was the goal, was to help that program as long as I could. Hopefully I was going to get my own program and just kind of sail off into the sunset on this 35-year journey. And so along the way, I got to coach really good players at Riverside Poly, Division I players, NBA players, college players at all the levels. At the time, I had gotten linked up with a program called West Coast Elite, which is now All In Elite, and Ryan Silver, and he was just getting that thing going off the ground. We were working out of his 2-bedroom apartment in El Segundo. And so when I was there, I got to be introduced to McDonald's All-Americans, NBA players. And so really on accident, I end up being around some of the best players in the country at 24, 25 years old, 2 or 3 years into my coaching career. And, you know, for me, I think what really helped was I wasn't really in it for my coaching career because I had this vision of what it was going to be. And so all I did was try and serve these programs and work really hard. And as a result, I had a lot of interest from some college coaches to kind of jump into that lane. And at first I thought it was like terrible. I was like, you guys spend way too much time away from your family. You guys spend way too much time on the road. It's too much. And so, but eventually, you know, becoming a full-time basketball coach and not having to teach and just focusing on hoops all day sounded really enticing to me. And my logic behind it was I can always kind of go back to high school. I can't always jump into college. And so my wife and I hopped into it with that mindset and, you know, kind of let it go on its run. And so I was really fortunate to start with a dear friend of mine, Rhett Soliday at Vanguard. And so I think doing that helped me a lot because I was starting college coaching with a guy that I've known for 15 years. He coached me in camps growing up, and it was someone I was aligned with. So I kind of just got to be myself early, moved into, you know, after only 7 months there, I got hired at Cal Poly. At the time, I was the youngest Division I assistant coach in the country. Really thankful that John Smith believed in me there and tried to help him get the program off the ground there. And after 3 years there, I found myself in a situation where I didn't really recognize my purpose in my coaching career anymore. You know, 6 years prior when I started, I wanted to be this high school coach with a high purpose and maybe felt like a little bit of that was not happening at that point in my career and was looking for a new opportunity and a little slower pace of life. And the Division II level provided me with that. Then I got a chance to be with Matt Logie here Matt Logie, I had known for 15 years as well, had worked camps with him. We grew up not too far from each other. His grandfather's program was a program that I grew up playing against. I made that move with my family down here, and I aligned really closely with the Point Loma community, the school, and I was really excited about that. 9 months later, he leaves for Montana State, and I'm the head coach at Point Loma. And
Yeah.
so it's been a crazy journey. I graduated playing 10 years ago, and I'm going into my third year as a head coach. And so I don't think my journey can be replicated. I certainly don't advise people as a roadmap of this is how you should do to get to where I'm at. But what I think I've learned and why I'm able to be adaptable as a young coach is I've been at every level. And so I understand what it takes to win at the high school level, the AAU level. I've been at the Division I level. I've been at the Division II level, the NAI level. And so I've seen every pace of recruiting. When I was a club basketball coach, we were trying to fill a roster every weekend.
Yeah.
Right. And so we had McDonald's All-Americans who were trying to make sure we had enough to play that weekend. And so the transfer portal moves nowhere near as fast as the AAU portal, I like to say.
Yeah.
But I've had a chance to mentor so many recruitments. I've ran recruitments for McDonald's All-Americans. I've ran recruitments for junior college players, and I've been on visits all over the country. And so I got to see behind the curtain a little bit differently than maybe a lot of people who maybe got into college and did the grad assistant thing and have only seen one program's recruiting model. I've seen everybody's. And so I think that's allowed me to really understand how to prioritize the needs of the player. And I've gotten to see this recruitment went this way and it didn't work. And I've seen recruitments go another way and it did work, and kind of put the pieces together that way. And I think it's put me in a unique position to have success in this recruiting model.
Yeah, no, that's awesome. I think that definitely the more programs you can be exposed to, the more coaches, the more you can take in. And like I say, you kind of got a crash course through a whole lot of different levels, kind of back to back to back. I think one thing I'm always kind of curious about, or talking to families with at the high school level. I mean, you talk about kind of getting to Point Loma, a place where you kind of feel aligned with the mission. I think that me attending Westmont, understand that, you go to some schools, and like for me at Westmont, like you had to be a Westmont person to be able to kind of enjoy that college experience, or to kind of have success there. And although I've never attended school at Point Loma, we've come around to multiple camps. I've interacted with a lot of people that have gone there or played there. And it definitely feels like, as a very similar sense, that kind of Christian liberal arts college, it's very mission driven. It's not just kind of rocking up to a state school where everyone's doing their own thing. There's kind of this community sense. Can you talk about how, for guys that you're trying to bring in, someone that wants to play at Point Loma, how important is it to find a match to a program that kind of matches your identity, where you want to go in life? And then also, how do you help identify who is really a Point Loma player and who's someone that just wants to play college basketball?
Yeah, I think that's probably the whole point, or the whole job description that I have, right? And so what we're really fortunate at Point Loma to have is not a shortage of people that want to play for us. And for the most part, we don't have a shortage of players that want to play for us that are good enough either. And so for me, what my job is to find a way to manage all of that in terms of bringing in guys that might want to sacrifice a bigger role elsewhere. Maybe guys that aren't motivated by the Roman numeral that comes with their level, and finding ways to make sure that they fit our university, like you're talking about. I mean, it's very similar to Westmont. I mean, our school is about 2.5 times bigger in terms of enrollment, but a lot of the same principles in which you're talking about. And so for us, to me, I tell parents all the time, the talent evaluation is not that difficult. Occasionally there is the diamond in the rough, and maybe we value a particular skill set, a particular ability that other programs don't value. Maybe we watched a kid more than the other program. But to be honest, in today's era, it's just the diamond in the rough thing is such a novel concept, almost because of the social media, the technology out there. Like, very few times is a player popping up at another program and I'm like, who is that? Where did that kid come from? How did they find him? Right.
Yeah.
And so as a result of that, I feel like a lot of times parents chase this idea that I just have to get my son some exposure. The truth of that typically is your son's not at that level yet, right? And so what happens is in an effort to find exposure, you're sacrificing development. And then the reality is the exposure you were looking for, you were never in a place to be evaluated at that level anyways. And I think that's the answer more often than not. As for what we're looking for, I think what we've done a very deliberate job of is making sure that that person fits four categories, the non-basketball, right? And so our four pillars of our program are faith, love, discipline, and sacrifice. And like I said earlier, I've been at a lot of programs that have said they've had pillars, and then the stories that I hear once they're there, like maybe their pillars aren't honored, or maybe that's the only time you hear those pillars is in that process. I like to think that our guys could probably recite our pillars forwards and backwards. That's how much they're hearing them. And so as much as the talent evaluation goes on the skill set and the ability, I think a lot of times where the decision to take that player or offer that scholarship actually goes through that lens probably more severely. And so for us, that's, faith in demonstrating ability to have, faith in your teammates, faith in your coaching staff. Obviously, faith's a huge component of our university, but at the same time, I think more importantly, it's, have you demonstrated that you've given Coach Carlin a chance at Vista Murrieta, and you've really believed in that through thick and thin, right? The coaching staff and their teammates. Do you love the game? I think the hardest part is everybody loves the Pacific Ocean and everybody loves San Diego, right? Do you love the game of basketball? And is that the cherry on top, right? Do you love your teammates, right? Have you demonstrated that? Discipline, right? Guys that get better every single time. We say that discipline is greater than motivation. We're not looking for guys. It's easy to be motivated after a tough night, after a bad free throw shooting night. Like, are you disciplined in everything that you do? A lot of times that looks like your GPA, or are you getting stronger? Are you in shape? Right? Like that. And then probably the most rare one to find is do you want to be a part of something bigger than you? I don't think it's any secret that a lot of our guys could probably have bigger opportunities at other schools. But I do think that we put a premium on making sure that we're bringing in guys that want to be a part of something other than their individual experience. And that's kind of the evaluator. From a basketball perspective, I think we're really big. We recruit positional size at a premium. I found out the hard way that being a 6'1" guard at the NAI level, like if I was a toe out of position, I was getting back cut by one of your teammates, man.
Yeah.
And so when we recruit size, I accidentally get a steal on that just because I'm big. And so a lot of that's a defensive model, but also, offensively, I think it allows us to put a lot of pressure on the rim, which ultimately opens up our skill set. And I think Point Loma attracts highly skilled, high IQ players. And I think we'd be wise to make sure that we recruit big players that can really shoot and that can make great decisions and go from there.
Yeah, no, I mean, I think that's awesome. The idea of having pillars. And I mean, I think that for anyone that like watches a lot of college basketball social media, there's all the memes about every coach is culture, culture, culture. And it's just everyone says it, but to find a program where, hey, this is what we're putting down, this is what we believe in, you're going to see it day in, day out, you're going to live it. That's a rarity and sometimes, maybe harder to achieve than just to say. I think it's obvious that you guys are having success with it, not just as far as the wins, but I saw on Instagram you guys posted, there being a 100% retention rate in players. And so I think for most of guys and just like basketball discourse around the place now with, talking to high school guys, and the reality for them is, what maybe used to be for sure a Division II offer, a Division I offer, it's now looking like, hey, you should go to JC, or if you were a D1, now that D1 wants you to go improve yourself at a D2 for a year or two. And so, I mean, I could imagine there are plenty of players that would go, well, like Point Loma has a lot of success, and if I go there and I prove I can have success, if I can be a part of a tournament and a championship team, like I would have a higher premium in the transfer portal. What do you think it is kind of specifically about some of your day-to-day stuff with the guys you have on campus, the relationships you build? Why is it that these highly skilled, highly talented guys that, like you said, probably could go play somewhere else, like as a coach, how do you make them buy into that, this is bigger than you, and let's be a part of that? What's your process throughout the season and kind of the details of the day-to-day?
Yeah. It's a great question. I mean, first of all, a year ago, so last year's team was the only team in the entire country to not graduate a scholarship senior and return every single player on that roster. So we went 13 for 13 on that. And then this year we returned 100% of the roster that had Division II eligibility, right? And so we had one guy that had a Division I year that he was able to go use, but we returned all 6 undergraduate players again, and so that's where that comes from. I think the first thing is like we're leaving this era, and I think it's actually I think a lot of what we're seeing right now is an unhealthy coach's way or the highway era of college basketball that probably lingered around a little bit longer than it should have because the coaches were in control. And so there certainly is a gift and a curse to this current era. And it probably needs some more guidelines that I would be a lot more thankful for. But the reality is I'm not making anybody buy into anything. I can't do that. Anyone I would love to meet a guy that is so gifted that I'm going to make you buy into what I'm doing, right? I think that's probably a delusional thought in today's era, but I also think it's an unhealthy way to go about it. For us, the first thing starts with us is I believe at our core, if you could define us by one thing, we're a development program. And so our model is pretty simple. And I tell our coaches, I expect to recruit the best players, and I expect that we develop them better than anybody else. And so if we can do those two things constantly, I'll figure out a way to coach us well enough that night. And I might get out coached a lot, but if we recruit good ones and we develop them better than anybody else, if I should have gone zone or should have switched my ball screen coverage or should have done that, they will make me look way better based on that. And I think that's where we start. And for us, that's 4 ways. First one, spiritual development, right? We get to lead with that from the forefront. We meet everybody with where they're at. Different people are on different points of that journey. But we're proud to be a program that focuses on spiritual development, right? Academic development, right? Making sure that our guys are getting in majors, in careers that are going to translate to being professionals outside of basketball. Pros or professionals is our slogan here. You're not leaving Point Loma and starting Daniel Carlin's Skills Academy at the local park for $25 an hour, right? That's not a career.
Yeah.
Now, you have a business plan, you have a business model, that's what you're passionate about, let's roll, right? Totally backing that up. But developing a professional resume, right? Third one, player development, right? We want to make you the best player you're capable of being. We don't want to make you a Point Loma player, right? Where you're limited, or we don't want to make you a 3 or a 4. We want to make you the best basketball player you can be, right? And so maybe you're a 3 that becomes a 1, or a 2 that becomes a 4, or a 5 that becomes a 3. And for us, all those are irrelevant. We're trying to make you the best basketball player you could be. Then the fourth one's leadership development, right? Making sure that you're able to lead families, lead communities, being a great future husband, being a great future father, and then ultimately applying what you learned at Point Loma to being a great asset to whatever industry you're going to work in, whatever community you're going to work in. And so for us, that's where 100% of our focus is going in all the time. And so what we tell our guys is you actually don't have to worry about your development at all. You just have to show up and work hard and have a good attitude. That in itself is going to be really hard with what we're demanding and how much, I mean, all that stuff I just explained, that's your workload every single day, right? It's a lot to just show up and execute what we're asking you to do. And so, but our thing is we're so focused on your development, you don't have to think about it, right? Which is probably backwards to a lot of programs. And that's where you see the midnight shooting sessions, the extra weight sessions, right? Guys having to buy their own protein shakes. We're doing all of that. And we're tracking all of those shooting numbers, all of those weight room numbers, all those nutrition numbers. And so we're so invested into the development of our student athletes that I would say that probably, and I haven't had this conversation with my guys, but a big reason that our guys don't leave is they don't even have a chance to think about the big picture of leaving because we're so immersed in the day to day. So, to be honest, like there hasn't been one kid where I've gone into an exit meeting and go, okay, he might portal, like he might go do this thing. And so now that certainly could have happened. And are we going to have 100% retention rate for the rest of my career? Like highly, highly doubt it. And I'm not that naive. And maybe this thing kicks me in the butt and this soundbite sounds really good in August of 2025. And people are going to laugh at me in April of 2026. But I truly believe that because our guys know that there's not another place they can go and be invested in the way we're investing in them in terms of their actual development. I think that's a hard one. Could they leave for a couple $1,000 or, a few $1,000s? Yeah, but my argument would be that you're going to what we're giving you in your development is worth more than that. And so if our guys want to leave for a couple $100,000 and they're good enough to do that, like who's going to argue that necessarily?
Yeah.
But also a lot of credit goes to our university and our community because as you know, I can do everything that I just said, but if our guys don't have a place they want to live and our guys don't have a place where they want to go to school or they don't have a place where they're being treated really well, everything I said doesn't matter, right? And so
Yeah.
I think it's a double-edged sword with what our program's doing and what our campus is providing in terms of an experience.
Yeah, no, I think that's great. I think kind of going back to some of the previous like interviews I've been doing, I just spoke to Dan Russell last week from Weber
Sure.
State, and we talked about like the importance of the scholarship and how for so many people now it's kind of becoming like, oh well, I can go and make money, and maybe sure you got that window of 18 on, it's getting a little bit older now. It used to be kind of 22, 23, and maybe it's now pushing 25, 26 for some people, but
Yeah.
that's not going to sustain you for life, and probably the ones that make the most money are going to go to the league anyway. They're going to be all right. But for most people that play college basketball, like you just talked about, you're going to have to go get a job somewhere else. And are you ready for that? I heard Calipari talking about the other day, the kid that transfers schools 4 times, like, is he even getting a degree by the
Sure.
end of it? And a lot of these guys aren't. And so, I every time I talk to players, and hopefully anyone that listens to this, I kind of want to keep pushing that to the front is, you've got those, whatever it might be, 4, 5, potentially 6 years, depending on some of the situations where, you're trying to set yourself up for the rest of your life and moving forward. I know for me, when I picked Westmont, I kind of was looking at some of these other schools I had, and I was getting recruited by Coach Moore and Coach Azen there, and I kind of felt like, all right, like the man I want to be, like when I grow up, I think he goes through Westmont College. I think that everything that they're pushing there, what they believe in, I think that's what I want to learn how to be and who to become. And I think there are so many players that, and whether sometimes it's out of desperation that I just want to play college basketball anywhere, like they'll sign up and go, or some people just go like, what's the most money I can make right now? That avenue of, making sure that wherever I go, like the coach I play for, the school I attend, like what are the values of that school? What are the values of that program? That if you're a player and a parent, like for me, that's what I'd be looking at regardless of, division, league, conference, state,
Sure.
whatever. That's definitely where I'd be looking. So, not that I have any eligibility left, but you won me over as a recruit with that.
Hey, if you do, I don't care. I don't even need you as your former self. I know that it's still in that tank. And the way you pass that basketball, man, and make decisions, I would love to have you.
Yeah, well, I saw that D2 is potentially throwing around a 5th year, so maybe I can sneak a lawsuit in and come over for a season.
Hey, there are law firms out there who have quit their entire practice with their success rate against suing the NCAA. So at this rate, like I tell compliance all the time, like you can tell me the new rules, but I'll just wait for the lawsuit to figure out what those actually become.
Yeah, 100%. I think every time I ask a coach, like, hey, like, what are your thoughts on this? They're like, today or like what it's going to be?
So true.
But so I think I'm interested. I'm sure a lot of like players and parents are interested because you talked about that idea of like chasing exposure and like I got to be in the right gym or the right program. I think there's a lot of great programs, and I also think there's a lot of places that are kind of selling false hopes and dreams to families.
Sure.
But as far as like coming from you and your program, and you don't necessarily have to go through kind of every player one by one, but if you think about like where are we identifying these guys? Obviously, you guys do kind of elite camps, you guys host team tournaments, watching a bunch of film, connections, like where do you kind of find most of these guys? How do they end up on your desk? And then how do you kind of make those final decisions on, yep, that's the guy we want to offer and bring in?
Yeah, it's a great question. I think the answer at its core is every single we've had every single type of player from every single type of background. And I think it's really important for our staff to be really nimble year to year on what it is that, hey, what is working for us in recruiting right now? We've been really good with the high school player for so many years. We've been really good with the Division II transfer for a lot of years. We've gone junior college a couple times now. It's been really good. That's not typically what Point Loma's done. We've gone Division I transfer, we've gone high school a lot. Still, I think the reality is we're looking for the alignment as much as hopefully the player is, right? And so every year it seems like there's more of, okay, this year we went 6 transfers or 5 transfers, 7 freshmen. Of those, some of them we recruited for years, some of them we recruited previously, some of them we didn't even know about until the last month of their recruitment. And so I think it's really important for us to constantly turn over rocks and constantly find and not lower the bar on the talent and the pillars no matter what. And even if that means we're going late into the summer, we're just not going to lower the bar on the talent quotient. We're not going to lower the bar on the alignment thing. And so what that looks like is a lot of ways. For us, we'll start with the transfer portal. If you look at our transfer portal class, we've got a kid coming in from a Division II school whose athletic program shut down. We've got a kid coming from a Division II school who had a coaching change. We've got a kid coming from a Division I school who never met his head coach at his Division I school until his official visit. We've got another Division I kid who was at his university for 3 years, right? And so I think it's really important that while the portal is demonized a lot, I think it's necessary for some. We're looking for those guys that the portal exists for, right?
Yeah, definitely.
Are you in the, is this portal actually doing right by this kid? I mean, the Division II school shuts the athletic department down. What's that kid supposed to do, right?
Right.
And so I think we've gotten really particular with that. And I think it's been successful. Probably more so what you're talking about is the high school kid, right? I spent 3 years at the high school and grassroots level. The truth is, every single kid, I think, is a unique situation and has a different way. So if there's a program who's using blanket statements where you should play with this program and not that program, you should play at this private school and not this public school, I think it's all incorrect. If you're going at it that way, every single kid is case by case, right? And so there's a kid that averages 8 points a game and plays with high major players, and as a result, he gets seen because of that, right? Another player might not fit that role, and so he might not be showcased that way, right? This kid might be starting point guard and he needs the ball in his hands, but if he plays on that level of grassroots club team, he's never going to have the ball in his hands, right? He's just not. And so I think every single player should be evaluating it every single year, but I think the biggest component of it that gets missed, and this is my biggest hesitation for any kid that wants to transfer high schools, right? Changing club teams is a little bit different, right? I don't love changing midseason. I love kids that play with the same club team, but I do understand there's extenuating circumstances. But from a high school transfer perspective, the social dynamic of transferring is so important. We got to remember these kids are 15 to 17 years old. Have they been with the same kids in high school since they were like 4th grade, 3rd grade? Like, is your kid capable of uprooting their life? I transferred high schools, right? And I had a family deal, an emergency, and uprooting your life as a 16-year-old and trying to get a routine from a basketball perspective, I mean, it's so hard to do. And so I think that's such a big component of it. And the reality is, at the high school and grassroots level, if you're not just constantly beating guys out because you're able to outwork them, then you're probably not good enough anyways to get to the exposure level that you're talking about, right? And so you're good enough to play and you go to Vista Murrieta, the chances are, if you're good enough to play at Point Loma, you're probably one of the best players on the team anyways. And this is a null conversation in terms of where should I go to high school and what should I do, right? And so I think the truth is everybody's got to get way better. Our guys got way better, right? Our freshmen have to get way better if they want to play as sophomores. If they stay the same, it's not just this line of succession that's going to happen for them. And so as you go on and on and on, I think every single situation is different. And for us, what we're looking for, man, is that guy having faith in his teammates and coaching staff? Man, does this kid love the game? The last time I saw him play, did he improve? And most of the times, most of the guys that we're taking, they're improving drastically game to game, even if it's a portal kid, right? They're constantly getting better in every situation.
Yeah, no, I think that's great. I agree. I think that, you're right in the transfer portal, and that's conversations I have with coaches all the time that, there are guys that just jump in the portal because, oh, well, I didn't get mine, so I'm going to go somewhere else. And then obviously all those situations you're talking about. And, there's real reasons why guys are looking for opportunity. If you can use it in the right way, then there's definitely a lot of talent that's out there and you can grab. I mean, I think all that feedback is great. I had a conversation with Coach Moore on my first podcast that, with this idea of the transfer portal, one of the things he always told like recruits is like, you're going to struggle here. It's going to be difficult and like, you're going to have to overcome it. And for me, it's ways where like, I'm so thankful the transfer portal didn't exist when I was playing, because it wasn't something that I ever got to entertain, because it was just like, all right, well, like this year didn't go the way I wanted. I just got to get better. Whereas now people go like, well, the coach, he didn't play me, so he doesn't like me. So I'm just going to jump in here and try to go somewhere else. And so, I think that, again, it's obviously a hot topic in college basketball. I think that a lot of high school level coaches or players or parents don't like it because that's what they get told by college coaches. Oh, we're going to look at the portal first. But, if I was in your shoes, I would be looking as well.
I think it's totally okay to not like it. And if I was a high school kid, I probably wouldn't like it. If you talk about it for more than that 30 seconds, you're wasting time that you could just be accepting it and getting better, right? Because here's the deal. I want my best players to be our high school kids. And the reason we've had sustained success is for the last 6 years, Point Loma's best player has been a player we've gotten at the high school level. And so when our best player's been in our program 4 to 5 years, it's just going to pay dividends. And we've had some transfers come in and fill some spots, and they've been really good, right? But I would prefer, I think anybody would, I mean, it's just basic logic. I would prefer to coach a kid for 4 to 5 years than I would 2 to 3, right? I think I can develop a Division II player a lot better than I can recruit them, right? But at the same time, right, that player has to be willing to come to Point Loma out of high school as well, and that talent quotient has to be met. And so anyone who's complaining about it is 100%. I don't like going to the dentist. I like to complain. At some point, you got to go do it, right?
Yeah,
and
right.
you got to, this is the way it is. And you've got to overcome whatever those circumstances are.
Yeah, no, definitely. And I mean, I think that's where, maybe the first year all the changes were happening, I was like, man, like, this sucks. Like, what's going on? And I would tell guys, like, I was trying to call coaches and get my guys recruited. And I had one coach go, Coach, we're not recruiting a high school guy for the next 4 years. And I wanted to be like, man, like, screw this guy. Like, and I just wanted to be like mad about it. I had another guy that was an all-CIF player, and I was trying to sell him. And they're like, well, yeah, he's pretty good, but he's 18. And like, this guy's 22 and has 2 years of eligibility. Like, I'm going to take this guy. And I think I spent that first year going like, man, like, this just sucks. And then I kind of got to that point where you're at, where I'm like, all right, maybe it does suck, but this is what it is. So there's no point me pushing back against the machine and just trying to tell guys, oh, like, you should do this or do that, or like, you can't go there now because, sorry, it is what it is. But go, all right, well, like, here is the current setup. Here's the lay of the land. How do we get you to where you want to go? What is that pathway going to look like? And for some guys, like I say, and probably, me and you graduated at the same time. And like, I always felt that I knew what college recruitment was like up until about 2020. And then it changed drastically. And so I was like, hey, you know what? Like, I think you're a D1 guy 2 years ago. I don't think a D1 school is looking at you now. Like, you don't have to look at, there are plenty of D2s that would still love your talent. There are JCs. You don't even have to really pay for college at all. You can make sure that you're getting out with as little student loans as possible. And, from my point as a high school coach, so I'm trying to tell guys, hey, if you can get a degree where you can do something with your life and you're not saddled with debt, you're going to be in a fantastic place, as a 23, 24-year-old player. And so I think that's a great message for coaches, for players, for parents, this idea of, my kid's a D1 kid, or he's this or that, like, whatever perception you have. I think, to your earlier points, if he's good enough, you'll know that he's good enough, because he'll have the offers, he'll have the interests. One thing I am interested in following up with, because I think that for the high school guys that might be listening, or high school parents, it's something they're always unsure of, especially if they've never gone through the recruitment process before. I have had a conversation with a coach recently who I was like, oh, I saw that you guys offered like this kid. And he's like, who's that? And I was like, what do you, this is his Instagram and this is his offer from your school. He's like, I don't know who that is. And I'm like, do you think one of the other coaches talked to him? He's like, well, they might have talked to him, but like, there's no way we would have offered him and I wouldn't have known about it. I don't know. Well, this is awkward.
Yeah.
But as far as, like there's obviously, hey, like, you performed well at our camp. And so, we're touching base to say, hey, thanks for coming out versus like, we need you at Point Loma. Like, what does the recruitment process look like for the guy that like, hey, like this is on a track where like a scholarship is definitely coming and I can feel really good about my recruitment versus, well, this coach is kind of talking to me, but it doesn't seem like the interest is right there. Like, how would that look from a player's perspective if Point Loma wanted to sign you and maybe you were a junior and they were starting that relationship? How would that look to them on their end?
Yeah. Well, I can only speak for us. And I think as I explain this, we're pretty unique in the way we do it, but we're really straightforward. And so everyone does it differently. There's no right or wrong way. I've developed our formula based on my experience running recruitments at the AAU level, right? And so I've been really fortunate to sit in on one-on-one meetings with head coach and player in the SEC, in the Pac-12, in the Big Ten, in the GSAC, in the Pac West, like junior college. Like I've seen every level and I've seen every model. I've seen, hey, here's your offer. You got 5 hours to take it. I've seen, hey, we don't offer. I've seen, hey, we're offering you today. And then we've never heard from that coach again. And so our formula has been created based on what I feel like has ultimately created the most successful players in terms of they got recruited this way, were communicated with this way, were treated this way. And as a result, that player ended up having success at that school, right? And so for us, I think one interesting thing about college basketball is that I don't know if it's us as coaches, I don't know if it's events, parents, kids, somewhere along the lines, we've decided that the rules of college basketball recruitment don't apply to like the rules of life, right? And so the rules of life or business or anything else, if something was confusing, if you thought you were getting a job offer and the boss or the person that interviewed didn't call you for 3 weeks, you probably wouldn't wonder if you were getting the job or not, right?
Right.
You'd probably
Yeah.
assume they went somewhere else. Somewhere in this college basketball thing, it's gotten really confusing on if I'm getting recruited or not. And I put it this way. You mentioned how beautiful it is to be at Point Loma. I absolutely love working at Point Loma. I want to work at Point Loma for a really long time. I would challenge kids and parents to think of how I would recruit a student athlete if I wanted to keep my job for a really long time, right?
Yeah.
I probably would treat them really well. I would call them often. I would tell them really honest things and try and create a relationship so that they would want to come to school. If you don't feel that from me, I'm probably not recruiting you either hard or at all, which means you're probably not option A. For me, I really struggle having option B's and C's because I'm wired so focused on relationships and everything I've described. And so our assistants are recruiting a lot of kids. I'm not recruiting a lot of kids because I try and be really intentional on building that relationship with what we're recruited. So I think that's probably where it starts. For us, we don't believe in the verbal scholarship offer. I always ask kids to show me their offers and they pull up Twitter and Instagram and that's not an offer, right? That's a picture of something that somebody told you on the phone. That's not a tangible thing. And so the way I picture it is like Michael Jordan in 1982 going to Dean Smith's office and receiving the piece of paper that he could sign on the line. That to me is an offer, right? Here is your piece of paper. You can sign it right now. And so for us, we give zero verbal scholarship. So if you've seen Point Loma offered somebody, that offer for sure isn't real unless they've sat in my office and I've physically shown them an offer in which, hey, this either can be signed today or can be signed come the early signing period. Here's the dollar amount. I'm a very black and white numbers guy, right? Here's the dollars that you're getting. Here's what we're offering you. Here you go, right? Will we recruit people in the meantime? Absolutely. But we run into a lot where, hey, coach, I've got 3 Division I offers, 4 Division II offers. Are you offering me or not? And I would just simply tell them, like, we're recruiting you really hard. I think we're probably recruiting you maybe harder and more intentionally than a lot of those schools that have offered you. If that's going to impact your decision, then maybe this just isn't a fit because you don't understand how we're trying to operate. We're trying to get to the point where the offer comes right around that decision time and we're kind of all on the same page. Typically what happens is you never see offers from Point Loma because they just commit at the same time. Right? We don't get every kid we recruit, or the offer never comes because the kid's just not interested and takes another opportunity, and that's fine too. And so we're really intentional on trying to build that relationship over time. And then when the decision needs to come, right? Hey, let's do this. Here's your offer. What do you think? Let's kind of try and figure out, are we a week away? Are we a month away? Are we a couple days away from making that decision together? And so for us, with everything I've talked about and the pillars and what kind of player, what kind of person we're looking for, I think that builds a really healthy relationship and understanding in terms of, hey, this is what you're getting from me. I'm not getting into this business arrangement with you or this relationship with you without you seeing everything we have. And now, boom, you're in my office. Let's do this together. You've seen every single area of our program. I actually don't understand. My favorite offers are the ones that come during the live periods. And so I always imagine what those coaching staffs are going through, right? Like, hey, we watched this kid play. He's really good. The head coach hasn't even spoken to him yet. He's going to call him after that live period game. We're going to offer him a scholarship. And there's so many things that can go wrong. Is that kid even interested in your region of the country? Is that kid, but throwing that offer out? And so I find it to be more stressful and cause more harm than it is good. It certainly puts us behind the eight ball sometimes because maybe, hey, Point Loma hasn't offered me, even though they're recruiting me really hard. But I always am thankful that I coach basketball and not football because my model
Yeah.
would be probably really broken in a 100-man roster. But I feel like we can find 13 to 15 families every year that align with what we're kind of about and our process in it.
Yeah, no, that's awesome and good feedback. Again, I think all the stuff you laid out is as far as kind of the head coach relationship, obviously that relationship building, at times I'll ask guys like, oh yeah, I think this kind of school's interested. I was like, oh, who have you talked to there? It's like, oh, this one guy kind of hits me up every now and then. Have you talked to the head coach? Like, no. Like, oh, all right, well, you probably want to think about not putting all your eggs in that basket and exploring other options.
And I think timelines are really important on that thought as well, right? And so, we could be really recruiting a kid hard, but if he's a rising junior or a rising sophomore, like I'm just probably not going to everything I've talked about in this podcast, think about how much energy I'm putting into my players every single day, right? And so, if you're not, if your recruitment isn't in decision mode, like I might not be talking to those guys. But yeah,
Right.
if it's going into fall signing period or you're going into the end of your senior year and you're not speaking with that head coach on some sort of regularity, I think there's a lot of truth to what you're saying.
Yeah, no, yeah, definitely. I guess that timing piece is key because if you're a sophomore, there's not necessarily a rush, especially in today's world of college basketball and just kind of depending on position and size as well. But yeah, I think kind of for families trying to understand what is an offer, what is interest, was heavy recruitment, especially for high schools is something that's a challenge for families. But Coach, I've really appreciated your time. I love Point Loma, and so I don't want to sell it too hard myself. I want to let you do it. But I know for me, and I got my degree in history, and so when you walk into the gym and you got that plaque right there of MLK Jr. and kind of him giving the speech, and you get to look out at the Pacific Ocean. It's a pretty hard view to beat. We talked about it before we jumped on, and I said, man, like Westmont and Montecito is nice, and there's not many places that I feel are up to our level of competition as far as the campus goes, but Point Loma might just be there. So can you give us your rundown? Obviously, you've talked about how much you love the campus. If there's a kid that you guys are recruiting right now, you're like, hey, you should go. Well, hopefully they can listen to the full podcast, but hey, go jump to the last 5 minutes of the podcast, and you're going to hear about why I love Point Loma so much. Can you give me your rundown about why a player should choose to play at Point Loma University?
Yeah. Well, I'll start with how I think every player should evaluate their recruitment. And I think that's in 5 categories. I think location's really important. I think your degree is really important. I think how important is winning to you. For some people, that's not a huge factor in their process. It might be last, right? Playing right away, playing time, I think is really important. And then relationship with the head coach. I can pretty much tell you if a certain school is recruiting you, if you rank those 5 things, I can pretty much tell you if you should go to that school or not. Like, hey, you said location's really important and that location doesn't align with you at all, right? And so, I think I would talk about Point Loma in a similar way where we're really fortunate where all those categories, we can pretty much check that box. First of all, it doesn't get better than San Diego. And I've been on this unbelievable tour of places. I mean, Costa Mesa at Vanguard, San Luis Obispo at Cal Poly, now in San
Yeah.
Diego. And I truly think I've found the jackpot of all those
Yeah.
places, right? I mean, most people would hope to live in one of the three at some point, and that's been my last 10 years. So San Diego's unbelievable. What I love about Point Loma as a campus is we have a small town feel, but we're 10 minutes from downtown, right? And so we're not in the day-to-day, big city vibe. We have our own place on the point and we get to go downtown whenever we want. Our guys are at the Padres game now. You can go to any of the beaches that you want, but when it's time to grind Monday through Friday, Monday through Saturday, there's no distractions here. Being out of school, small school where it's, class sizes are 14-1 student to faculty, right? That can be intimidating at times because there's nowhere to hide. But at the same time, our faculty and our professors, like, they want to be invested and they're not going to let you fail. And so they're walking hand in hand and they know you. And so for us, we don't have a football team, right? We only have 4 male sports on campus with a student body that's made up of 68% of our campus is women. And so we're the thing to do here at Point Loma. Men's basketball is a great time. If school's in session and we don't have some type of winter break or Thanksgiving break, our gym is packed. Those photos are available online. And like you're saying, our back doors open up to the ocean. And so it's really hard to have a bad attitude, no matter how hard practice was that day here. And the biggest thing for us is we're going to develop you into the best player person that you can be. And so we're looking for guys that, hey, we're going to get 100% out of that kid. Not really interested in kids that we're going to get 50% out of, because even if
Yeah.
their ceiling might be higher than the other kids at 100%, then if I get 50% out of you, it's still less than the other kid that I can get 100% out of. And so if you want to develop and you want to try and compete for a national championship and have your toes in the sand along the way, man, that's what we're striving to do. And we have a great time doing it. And I think the biggest thing is every single kid that we recruit is evaluated under the lenses that we have. And so for us, it's really comforting to families and players to know that it can be one thing to be aligned with me. It can be one thing to be aligned with our university, but to know that our families have also been through the same rigorous recruiting process that we've put them through. Hopefully it's comforting that you're going to a place and a locker room that may be just a little bit different than anywhere else because of how we do it and how we're aligned. So that's us, man. We're trying to compete for a national championship, trying to make everybody the best player that they could possibly be while enjoying the fruit of San Diego, California, man. So really appreciate you having me on, Coach. It's a blessing. I appreciate you not throwing me under the bus for how much you kicked our tail in college, in my college days. But yeah, it's been a blast, and hopefully, everyone listening can take a nugget or two along the way.
Yeah, no, I appreciate it, Coach, and obviously we're close and get down a lot. So if we better check out a couple of games and definitely take our team back down there to enjoy all that good Point Loma stuff you guys are talking about. So appreciate you jumping on, Coach. Good luck this season, and we'll definitely be following along.
Absolutely. Appreciate you, man. Go Sea Lions.
Yeah, there you go. All right, thanks, Coach.